Here's the challenge: to get as good as humanly possible at Japanese in 1 year, starting from zero. It's the Tyler Durden scenario. He came up to you in a car park and told you, if you're not fluent in 1 year, he'll be back.
If you're not on your way to becoming a veterinarian in 6 weeks, you will be dead.
So with that premise, what would be the most efficient, effective way to do that? Hi, I'm Matt, and I've been living in Japan for 10 years now. I've already passed the JLPT N1 exam, but this is exactly how I'd start again if I was starting from scratch, if for some reason I had to do it in 1 year somehow. Methodology. We're going to focus on one area at a time. Eventually, we need to integrate everything, but to go as fast as possible, we don't want to split our attention in 10 different directions. It's much more efficient to focus on one area and live and breathe it until you get really good at just that one area. So that's what we're going to do. Phase 1, the basics. Of course, we start with hiragana and katakana, the Japanese alphabet. There's approximately 100 characters, so that'll take us about 2 days to get them roughly memorized. We'll study them efficiently using flashcards. Phase 2, kanji. Now here comes the real Japanese. In this phase, we'll focus purely on kanji and vocab that use only the kanji that we've learned so far. Ideally, we'd learn them in a hyper-efficient order like this. A. Start by learning basic shapes like these. Give each shape a name related to its approximate meaning, like person and grass. Use those names to make a memorable story to remember the meaning of each new kanji. Humans have a terrible visual memory, but we're amazing at stories. So here's an example. Soil plus inch equals temple. Shape some soil into a perfect cubic inch and it'll grow into a giant temple. Visualize it. Practice recalling it. Then when you see temple in the wild and see it's made out of soil and inch, you remember your story. It's temple. D. Repeat the same process for 2,136 kanji. Here's another example. Sun plus temple equals time. When the light from the sun hits the temple, time stands still. Like that. Most kanji work just like this. They're just combinations of shapes of other kanji. To make this as rapid as possible, we'd learn kanji in order of frequency. So the most commonly used kanji first. Except when we're about to learn a kanji that contains a shape that we don't know yet. Then we learn the required shape first. In our previous example, sun is a basic shape, but it's an advanced kanji. We learn it first because it's useful for learning kanji like these. This method is killer. Combined with algorithmically scheduled flashcards using spaced repetition, a topic for another video, it's very, very, very efficient. E. Finally, we'd learn vocab based on only the kanji that we know so far. For example, we just learned big and cut. So that unlocks the vocab big cut, which means taisetsu. Because we can recognize the shapes involved, we can see it's big and cut. So again, we can make a story. To celebrate important occasions, I always get a big haircut. Again, we visualize it. We can do the same for the reading, taisetsu. Make a story like, a big cut ruined all my tai sets. But personally, I find that if you're studying hardcore, you're living and breathing the content, so you don't need to go heavy on mnemonics. But they are definitely helpful in the beginning. Now, you might think that such a system takes way too much work up front. How can you name kanji you haven't learnt yet? How would you know kanji frequency order? But you don't have to worry about that. There are systems that solve that problem. Originally, it was solved by the Remembering the Kanji system, RTK, by James Heisig. Wanikani does a similar thing, but I wouldn't recommend it for a speedrun. All the visuals are from my website, Kanpeki Study, which also uses this technique. You can check that out if you want. Grammar. So now we've blitzed kanji and vocab hardcore until we've learned all 2,136 Joyo kanji and about 8,000 to 10,000 vocab. While studying the vocab, we'd also make sure to practice mimicking the vocab's correct pitch accent so that we sound like a native speaker. If we're being hardcore, that'd take us about 3 months studying 2 to 4 hours a day. So that's 25 kanji per day and 100 vocab per day. After those 3 months, we'd have advanced level in kanji and vocab, enough to pass the highest level of the JLPT test. That's insane. There's just one problem. We still have zero grammar knowledge. But grammar is a lot easier to pick up when you know all the words being used. I'd study these exact grammar textbooks. Start with Genki 1 and 2, then graduate onto the Kanzen Master and Soumatome textbook series. For every grammar point, I'd focus on reading the example sentences and making sure that I understood each one. Do all the exercises and check the answers. Review. That's your full-time job for another 3 months. Hey, Matt here. I've just started YouTube, so if you're enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it. Okay, back to the video. Phase 4, immerse. Alright, now it's been 6 months, and we already have advanced kanji, vocab, and grammar knowledge, but we still can't really use Japanese in real life. I said to focus on one thing at a time, but when we're not studying, we can still be consuming Japanese. We want to be consuming as much Japanese as possible, the whole time. Listening to Japanese, watching TV in Japanese, playing games in Japanese, etc. The point is to get your ears and your eyes used to seeing, hearing, and parsing Japanese. As you learn more and more, you start to naturally decode more and more of the content. At this point, our theoretical knowledge will far surpass our ability to understand and use Japanese intuitively and in real time. So we're going to fix that with immersion. The next 6 months, we're going to live and breathe Japanese. We'll be reading books and consuming as much Japanese as possible. When we see something we don't know multiple times, we look it up. With our constant input, our brain is going to be blasted with the same patterns over and over and over again. Japanese would start to become second nature. We should also start outputting Japanese as well, making an effort to mimic native speakers. You can join Discord servers, Japanese ones, voice rooms on apps like HelloTalk and Tandem, etc. We want to be speaking Japanese daily and consciously trying to mimic the native speakers. Honestly, with this approach, I wouldn't be surprised if that was enough to go from 0 to JLPT N1 in 1 year. And because of the pitch accent and mimicking practice, it would sound very natural to boot. Dorgan often talks about watching the same content repeatedly. This is also something that we should definitely be doing. Pick one film with the dialect that you want to learn and watch it over and over and over again until you've learned all the words and can recite all the lines perfectly by heart, mimicking the characters. Then move on to another film. That's way better than flooding your brain with new content all the time. Alright, that's exactly how I'd do it if I had to start from scratch and speedrun Japanese in 2026. Hopefully Tyler won't kill us now.
I feel ill.
Of course, it's not necessarily the most enjoyable way to study, but hopefully it gives you some ideas for how you can up your game. Let me know in the comments how your Japanese journey is going. Cheers, I'll see you in the next one.